Almost right after the assassinations, I knew that we were going to be in for it. I tend to be sensitive to the sixth sense, or kind of what's going on where you can't see. Almost as soon as the days of mourning were over, the candlelight parades were done, and stuff like that, I learned quickly that the days were numbered on the truce between the San Francisco Police Department and us, the gay and lesbian community of San Francisco. All along, as you know, the San Francisco Police Department was hardly anything more than a good old Catholic boy network who was very, very homophobic. And relations between us and the police were always tense. It was especially bad during the 60s and the 70s, before the era of Milk and Moscone. Now, of course, when Milk and Moscone were still around, there was a tight leash on the San Francisco Police Department and their dealings with us. Well, almost as soon as the grieving was over the assassinations, that leash was cut and they were let loose upon us. I sensed it almost as early as during the assassinations and the grieving thereafter. I could feel that electric tension in the air. 40 years later is when I learned that there was an incident in the Castro where a man who was putting up posters for a gay dance or something like that was roughed up by a police officer in preparation for being arrested for the crime of posting posters on a light pole. Well, fortunately, many of his peers, members of the gay community, had whistles, loud whistles that we would blow in an emergency. And he did that, and several of us surrounded him and the police and prevented the police from taking him away. It took an intervention by Chief Gain of the San Francisco Police to order the policeman to back off and let this man go. This was a single victory in an unfortunate war that has been going on between us and the San Francisco Police. I personally have received very cold stares from policemen inside of cruisers passing by when I would walk up and down either Polk Street or Castro Street wearing my colorful clothing under my clear plastic fetish clothing. So I knew there was an edge, and in fact, I felt I had to back off and be more modest in my dress while this was going on. Now, in another segment coming up, I will be talking about a case where I came very close to getting busted by the vice squad of the San Francisco Police Department when they had an undercover cop in a gay movie theater in the Tenderloin. So, beyond that, there was no physical interaction between myself and the police. It's just the vibes, the energy. I could feel the very heavy presence of the bad energy between us and the San Francisco Police. Now, decades later, things were much better, but at that time, they still had the ironclad grip of homophobia that could not be let go. Unfortunately, I think that is due a lot to the Catholic Church in San Francisco. Okay, you asked me about the near disaster I had in San Francisco in 1978. Well, let's go back a tiny bit. After the assassinations of Moscone and Harvey Milk, as you know, the president of the Board of Supervisors, who is Dianne Feinstein, took the reins as interim mayor, which is per the Constitution, for the city of San Francisco. Which is fine and dandy, except she did something that was in extreme disfavor to the gay community. She unleashed the police department upon us. When Moscone was mayor, he held a tight rein on San Francisco police and ordered them not to harass us. Well, Feinstein opened the gates and let the animals out upon us. We were harassed mercilessly. Coupled with that, I made some serious mistakes, being only human. Now, I've already been engaged with Arthur, though there was no excuse for what I did. I went to a gay adult movie theater in the city called the Tea Room Theater. That's it. And actually, they closed only recently, about 2014, 2016. But, and I met a guy there, and we chatted a bit, and we went back to my apartment, which is fine and dandy. That was on a Monday or Tuesday night. On Friday night, I got the urge again and went down to the same place and saw him there, and I approached him. And strangely, he waved me off, but he motioned me to follow him to the lobby of the theater. And he said, he warned me to be very careful because there is an undercover cop in the corner of the theater watching us very closely. And he pointed him out through the door from the lobby into the theater as a very young, nice-looking person who was intently watching the theater. And if any two men approach, he would bust them. He would arrest them, even if nothing happened. You can always pin a solicitation charge on him. Well, thanks for that warning. Nothing happened to me, but it was very, very close. And of course, obviously, without any more thinking, I stopped going to that theater and proceeded to be very, very careful for the next 3 or 4 months until I moved to San Diego and I had a better job and everything else. What if I was arrested? What if I did engage with somebody and they busted me? I probably would have been charged with solicitation. And being without roots in the community, I probably would have gotten high bail, which means I probably would have been in jail. Which means A, instant loss of the job, B, loss of my security clearance, and most likely, depending upon how long I would have been in jail, C, losing my apartment because I couldn't pay my rent. I probably would have been very, very angry and done some really, really nasty stuff, which means I probably would have not been sitting on this breakwater in Zwinnich Park here in Bellingham, Washington in 2020. I probably would be either A, in prison, B, dead, or C, a stark, raving, angry, psycho, militant who's gone insane. Who knows? But no, it did not happen. There is an interesting footnote. 40 years later, I come to learn that Dianne Feinstein was not well loved by many in our gay community, except for maybe those supporters who are wealthy and among the gay elite. Hello, don't mind me. I'm just doing Bellingham television interview. Yep. And many of us wore these buttons saying, "No Dianne Feinstein." I didn't know at the time. I tried to find one to order so I could wear it right here as I'm sitting on this breakwater talking to you. But no, I couldn't find any. So you have to pretend right now that I'm wearing a No Feinstein button right now. So that was the lessons learned. Nothing happens, but it taught me to be very, very watchful and to be very, very careful.